they came barging in, or we'd have some special.
Oh.
We'd have more than one McMillan on tonight.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. UFO Toronto, good to see you. Kurt Seltzer with a splash of lime. Nice to have you here. My brother Eugene, how are you, my friend? Good to see you. War Eagle to you. The lovely and talented Jennifer P. is back. John Hires, how you doing? And I think we're all caught up right now. And we're going to get going here in just about a minute here. I want to remind everyone that the good way to support this show is to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Ring that bell so you know when we are going to go on live. Remember, we are here 7 days a week at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern. The Super Chat is open. Hello, lovely and talented Manitoba Becky. Rock the Gas Bar is here. And let's get this thing going in 5 seconds. Here we go, everyone. Let's have a great show. I lied. We're like 20 seconds away. I always do that, man. Damn
it. Better be early than late.
I know, right? I know. Hey, thank you, Evil Carl, for that super chat. Way to kick things off. Appreciate that. And here we go, everyone. 5 seconds. Big Pickle, good to see you. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. Here we go. One of the big key players in reporting journalism when it comes to UFOs, UAPs, the disclosure process, is a good friend of this show, Lieutenant Tim McMillan. He's a retired police officer who now lives in the beautiful country of Germany, where his wife, she dragged him over there. She put a fish hook in his nose and said, "We're leaving North America. Let's go to Germany." And he's like, "Okay. All right, we could go to Germany." And that's exactly how it happened. Tim told me, showed me the scars. But Tim has a great website. He's the co-founder of thedebrief.org, a news site that looks at all things technological and advancements in technology, including UFOs. He's been hot to trot and really one of the main players in discovering the disclosure movement. We're glad to have him here tonight. And at the bottom of hour number 3, I will bring you the SOR Newswire, brought to you by Paranoia Magazine. Tim McMillan, always a good time to have you on the show, my friend. Good morning to you over in Germany. How you been doing?
Good, Dave. No, it is always a pleasure. I can never miss a chance to be on Spaced Out Radio or just to chat with you in general. It's always a good time. So thank you for inviting me back on.
You know, I always feel bad trying to get in touch with you because I always forget the time difference, man. And I know you're a family man first, and a husband first, and a journalist and a businessman second. So you know, there's always that little bit there where you're always like, "Geez, do I get a hold of him? Do I not?" I know you're a busy dude, but I appreciate you getting up early to do this.
No, it's good. Hey, you know, early bird gets the worm. So you get me out of bed early. I get to chat and wake up a little more. So I'm probably more productive. So call me more often. You need to get me out of bed early.
Well, we'll see how that goes, because I don't like getting out of bed early myself. I'm one of them cranky cases in the morning. But, you know, my friend, we have you for the next 2.5 hours, and it's going to be filled with a ton of information. You're coming in at a perfect time. I don't know if you had the opportunity to catch our show a couple of nights ago where Daniel Sheehan showed up with Melinda Leslie, and then last show that we had with Luis Elizondo and Sean Cahill. It's really been a jam-packed week here of ufology, and I'm wondering, man, like, you know, you were at the forefront of this all, and now everybody's playing catch up to be where you are. I'm curious, are you happy with the way things are going with the UFO front these days?
Gosh, it's hard to keep up with what is the UFO front these days. I mean, it has been quite a blitzkrieg of information in the last couple of weeks, and so I'm much like everybody else. It seems like every day there's multiple new drops, and I'm sure we'll get into that. There was some interesting news, more interesting news from Jeremy Corbell last night, John Greenwald over the Black Vault. It's a bit overwhelming, even for me, is trying to keep up with it. And frankly, I appreciate the compliment, but even a lot that's been coming out in the last couple of weeks has surprised me. So I'm like everybody else going, whoa, what's going on here?
I got to ask you, you know, because as journalists, you're a journalist, I'm a journalist, we try and stay on top of everything, man. And the other day I was talking to Bob McGuire about this, and I said, dude, I feel so lost with what's going on because there's so many different people getting so many different angles to this story, and none of it's adding up. You know, 2 + 2 isn't equaling 4. I mean, how the hell are we all supposed to keep in line with trying to figure out who's who, what's the truth and what's not?
I wish I had an answer for you there. And I agree with you. That has been a big problem. You know, I've probably got a stack of 3 or 4 stories that, and just like you said, as a journalist, you work hard on it, you flesh it out. It takes a lot of work. You're adding in experts, you're tracking down sources, you're trying to get the most robust thing you can. But I'm sitting here going, gosh, I can't keep up. I can't keep up with the cycle. And it's interesting. It's very interesting. I will say that I'm a big football fan, college football to be specific. And it feels a lot like there's a lot of people in the media and just out there who are running their 2-minute offense. And for those who aren't familiar, the 2-minute offense is like it sounds. There's 2 minutes left and a half for the game, and typically you're behind, and so you're running your hurry up, no huddle. I mean, I've got to score before the game's over. You know, I personally don't feel like that. Like I don't know where the finish line, I think people seem to think is so close yet. So I'm still at the stage where I'm like, hey, let's try to score some big meaningful points, but it's hard to keep up with it. It really, really is. It's interesting. It's a very interesting time. It's hard to parry through, you know, what's good and what's not good info right now. It's become a lot tougher, even for people who have been in this space, or journalists, or people who've been working on this for a while. And I'm only preaching to the choir because I don't have nearly the experience somebody like yourself and others have. So I'm sure it's even worse for you guys.
Didn't I tell you this was going to happen? I'm not trying to play an I told you so, but when I remember you and I having a conversation about a year ago about this, and I'm like, dude, when this takes off, we're all going to be playing catch up because everybody's going to be ufologists now, the mainstream media. And now we look at it and it's everywhere. This story has exploded. The media, you know, for the most part, is taking this very seriously. I think it's a good thing, Tim, but I am concerned with a lot of the ways it's being reported on different angles. How have you looked at the sudden media hype?
No, we're of like mind. And so first of all, I think that the more attention is good in the long term. You know, it's nice to see people like 60 Minutes or NBC and CBS, CNN, you know, beating on the Pentagon stores, because that's, you know, people might think that there's this big competition here, and, you know, you want to try to control the space and don't want any other news outlets reporting on your genre. But I've always said, it's not like I own UFOs or the debrief or anybody, frankly. And so it's nice to have these other outlets, especially ones that have bigger venues, because it is what it is. You know, the Pentagon is going to move quicker for 60 minutes than the Army, just because of who the audience is. And so it's nice that you have suddenly the Pentagon and people are being forced into saying, God, we can't just keep ignoring them, although surprisingly they're going to try, it looks like. So that's good. And I think it's a good thing. And I think it's a good thing. A lot of it is good because how it has been handled, mature. And so you see a lot of people who maybe didn't even consider the topic in light of all the news of the last several years, suddenly going, hey, what's going on with UFOs? Hey, is this real? So that's a good thing. There is downsides that kind of concern me, I think, and you alluded to it, in that how some of the reporting is, and it's very much like politics. It's turned into kind of a politics show where you see in politics where everybody's got to jump in and try to get that piece of the audience pie. And so, some of the concerning things there is when, I think some of the headlines that you'll get, or I saw, I don't even know what outlet it was, but just recently talking about Jeremy Corbell's leak last night, and the Pentagon is investigating the latest leak. And actually it was MJ, my partner MJ, who had gotten off the phone with the Pentagon. We just talked to them, and they said, we're looking into it. But that doesn't really mean we're investigating it yet. So there's still this kind of open-ended question. But I think if you look at that kind of rapid-fire response, I think the average person is going to go, oh, wait, now they're launching an investigation. I'm not sure that they are. They just said they're looking into it. Yeah. So it's tough. It's tough because it's tough, I imagine, for the average person to parry through all of that kind of information.
Oh, yeah. And Tim, when we talk about the way journalism is handled, and I was on a radio show earlier today out of Saga 960, the Mark Petroni show, and I literally was talking about the CTV, Canadian television interview that Chris Mellon did for 14 minutes. And this is what I'm complaining about when it comes to journalism, okay? Especially up here. This topic has been null and void. Every interview that I've done in Canada, literally, they're asking me all about the United States, not asking anything about Canada. Here you have a Canadian Washington Bureau reporter with 14 and a half minutes of tape for Chris Mellon. And she doesn't ask a single question about Canada's role in ufology. And as you stated last time you were on this show a few months ago, these guys want to expand. These guys want the allies to hop on board with this. And yet we can't get the national media to say, hey, you got this going on in the U.S. Even though I'm a Canadian reporter, I'm going to ask you about what's happening in the U.S. That doesn't make much sense. And that really shows the ignorance and the stupidity that a lot of mainstream media outside of this topic, even in the United States or where you are in Germany, have on this topic.
100%. I'm glad you brought that up because that's something that I have griped about for a while. And in fact, one thing that's nice is that a lot of the mainstream press, I will give credit to at least some of them. They've reached out to me, for several months now. So as this kind of started getting built up, and so some of the ones who really don't know anything about the topic, they've reached out to me, and I'm sure some others, saying, "Hey, this looks like it's big news, but we don't have a clue what's going on. Can you help get us up to speed?" So it's nice that there is at least some due diligence. Though I always recommend you need to talk to people who've been doing this for decades, not somebody like myself that's only been doing it for a couple of years and really focuses on just the U.S. Department of Defense news. But I spoke to a mainstream journalist out of the UK, and the same thing. And so he was very interested, catch me up to speed with what's going on with the Department of Defense. And I ended up spending most of the conversation trying to tell him, well, let's find out what's going on at the UK, because you're right. It's far from an American phenomena. If it is, then it's American, and I think we can just hang it up. It's not anything spectacular. UFOs are not aliens or extraterrestrials or ultra-terrestrials. It's American if they know our geographical boundaries. But we know that's false because there's lots of sightings. There's lots of things that go wrong across the world. And so that is frustrating because I think it narrows our scope of just really the grip of what we know about this phenomenon, because I can't even imagine what kind of reports, sightings, possibly much better data is out there. You just think about all the areas across this globe that really have zero reporting on. I mean, who knows what somebody, a tribe or people in Africa, what's going on in Africa? We know about the Ariel School event, which was spectacular. But what else? Like, there's these really dark spots in information, and I can understand for yourself, being a Canadian journalist, being like, yeah, who cares what's going on in the U.S.? Let's talk about what's going on in Canada. Let's talk about what's going on, more regionally here. Let's try to get some people involved locally, so we can. That's the only way I think that you're going to get good data, good answers on this.
Yeah, and I had a talk with someone today who is a PR person, and we were talking about the mainstream media in Canada, and he's like, "What would you want to see?" I said, this country, and I don't mean to pull away from the topic at hand, Tim, but I said this country has so many great UFO investigators, and we're not giving them any press. We're right in the heart of some really cool things happening right now, and we're not focused. These are people who know about Shag Harbor, know about the Prince George lights, know about, I go blank when I say, you got to know about that. Know about Falcon Lake and Stefan Mikulik, okay, and other incidents. Paul Hellyer, for instance. All right, we need to know the secrets. We know that the National Transportation Safety Board is getting information. We know the Department of National Defense is getting information. What we don't know is who's the group that's controlling the information, and that's what needs to come out. Good journalism would do that, but
Sure.
we're not seeing it. So it is what it is. Tim, right now, Lou Elizondo is on an absolute parade doing every type of show that's going on. I mean, you've talked to him. You've known him for the better part of 2 years. And I don't know if you caught our show last night or not, but I can tell you this, man. That was the first time I saw him go off emotionally on the show.
And I missed it. So fill me in. Yeah, what happened? What did he get?
Well, he got
about?
his back up because of the critics. Like, here he is trying to put everything out, and the critics are finally getting to them. Whether it's Mick West, whether it's Dr. Stephen Greer, when you look at all of this stuff that people are throwing at Elizondo right now, you know him better than most of us. Is the criticism worth it? Can we trust this guy?
Well, I think there's a difference between questioning anybody and, wanting them to back up their statements and wanting to verify, what somebody's saying, who they are. I think that, if Lou Elizondo was here right now, he would say that our initial meetings going back 2-3 years ago, I'm a former police officer. They started like police interrogations, like, tell me the truth. But, these were behind closed doors, and I'm not, putting it out publicly, like we're going to start a feud, like we're going to have a rap battle. So I think that questioning somebody in their claims is good. I think the criticism is not good. And I can understand, because it's one thing if you're questioning and trying to get to the truth. It's another if you're just trying to be uber critical or not recognizing that whether it's Lou Elizondo, it's you, Dave, it's me, it's everybody. We're just people. Like, we're going to make mistakes sometimes. We're going to say something that wasn't exactly accurate, or who knows what the hell I'll say in the next 2.5 hours. Like I said, I woke up with a head cold, so as soon as this Mucinex kicks in, I'll get loopy, and who knows. But I think that goes not just for Elizondo, but I think a lot of people in the UFO field in general, like yourself, I'm sure you've heard it, where people automatically are very critical, or they automatically launch into these ad hominem attacks where they want to criticize somebody's, what they've done. I saw an article, I'm not going to say by who, but I think it was last week, where they're criticizing, Elizondo, Leslie Kean, who's written for the New York Times, and even bringing up who Leslie Kean's ex-boyfriend was. I'm going, this is ridiculous. Is this tabloid type thing? Or is this the royal family and we're gonna try to just parade everything out and make people look bad? And if that's the case, it's not journalism, and you're not fact finding. You're confirmation bias porn. And I've always said that it is my firm belief that at the end of the day, Lou Elizondo, me, you, Chris Mellon, all of us can be crazy, but that's still not going to negate the tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, really kind of countless number of sightings or experiences or events that have occurred over arguably who knows how long, decades at minimum, hundreds of years potentially. That's not going to take that away. So I guess that I can understand why he would get passionate about that. I've been on the receiving end of lots of criticism at times, and you're sitting here going, well, are we investigating me? Are we investigating what's going on here? Because it seems like, unfortunately, that is a cycle that spins its wheels, and then it would be a tragedy if 50 years from now, the next crew is sitting here doing the same thing, going, what the hell's going on with UFOs? What's going on? Because we've spent all our time beating up each other.
I want to ask you, major question here. Actually, I'll ask you when we get to the bottom of the hour, because there's an important question that I've been asking a lot of people lately, Tim, and that is, why now? And I want that answer when we get back from the break, because I think it's going to be a real hefty answer. But do you think that there is a narrative in play as we speak in the way this is rolling out? And does there have to be a narrative?
Well, yes. I think there's a lot of narratives at play. And now, how organized is that narrative? I think it depends on which view you're at. And so, I know you've, in fact, we've probably discussed it when I've been on your show before, where I've said, in my belief, is there kind of a larger cabal conspiracy cover-up? I've never found evidence of that. And so when I say that, I mean, is there some kind of organized, like MJ-12 type control mechanism? Maybe there is, but I don't have any evidence for that. So I'm always cautious about what I speculate. Does there appear to be a lot of different people or entities who want to sew in narratives to the topic? Absolutely. And I think that goes from, let's say, I can see that with the Department of Defense. When I deal with them, it's very clear that their narrative is they don't want to talk about it, period. And they don't want this to be a deal. They don't want this to be a public show. They would prefer not providing any reports or doing anything. They want it just to go away. And so that's going to influence how they share information and what they say. At the same time, you have a lot of people who are advocates of this topic. Well, they have a narrative as well. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but you always have to be very cautious. And I think that's one thing I've tried to tell people to be cautious about, because you don't want to get caught in an all or nothing and then end up holding nothing at the end of the day. And so not every one of these major sightings that we're hearing about now, such as these 2019, quote, mystery drone sightings. This is really big right now because there's a lot of the video drops. I always tell people, be cautious, because on my end, at least, that in the investigation I've done thus far, which I don't want to say has been really comprehensive yet, I haven't heard anything spectacular. Like, I haven't heard some of the accounts we know from other sightings, some of the ones you mentioned out of Canada, or the Tic Tac, where we're seeing something moving that really defies how we understand that anything should behave. We're hearing some weird lights in the sky that moved around slowly that could be drones. So don't sell your house on this is going to be your disclosure event, because what happens if it comes out and they go, oh, you know what? It was drones. It was 4 drones.
Tim McMillan is here from Debrief Media and the debrief.org. We're talking UFOs. Why now? With Tim McMillan. When we come back on Spaced Out Radio, it's the ultimate UFO question that needs to be answered. We'll be back. Okay, just remember that YouTube and Twitch can hear us.
Hey, space traveler.
Hey, YouTube, everybody on YouTube and Twitch. You get the behind the scenes action.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's going well.
Oh. No, yeah. I think it's, and you're asking important questions that need to be discussed right now, which is great, Dave. I'm glad you are, because everybody usually, when they want to interview me or even interviews that you hear, it's always the same old boilerplate stuff. And but I think there's with all of this news that's going on, there's a lot of questions that need to be asked. Like, why now? And what the hell's going on? When you go for, at least on my end, spend years kind of trying to chip away, and then suddenly it seems like everybody's got something. There's leaks left and right, and you're like, what? Nothing's acting normal.
No problem. It's nuts. It's absolutely nuts right now. Hold on one second. Byron McDonald, who is following us on Twitter, he's new to our chat room there. He lives south of me about 2 hours. Byron, is that Taco Bell order on its way? Could you please let me know? Because, up here in 100 Mile, we don't have such luxuries such as Taco Bell. And you down there in the loops, you guys are spoiled with Taco Bell, Wendy's, KFC, McDonald's, all the good stuff. So I'm just wondering, have you hit the road yet, for some of that Taco Bell? Let me know. I'd appreciate it. Sorry, Tim. That's a big message. No. You know what it's like. You're over there. You don't get Taco Bell over there.
No, well, luckily, because we're here with the American Air Base, the Air Force Base here. So we got Popeyes and Taco Bell on base. We do have McDonald's, but outside of that, my good old American fast food. I've had to change my diet and start eating healthy.
Oh, me too. Me too. The past couple of days, dude, I've been dieting for like 4.5 weeks here because, I when I started going into triple chin status, I knew it was time to do something. And I literally, just changed my diet right there. And last night was the first night that I actually last 2 nights where I've just been craving fast food. Craving. Oh,
yeah. As a whole, which is a good thing, the German people in Germany eat healthier than we did back in the States. And so, a lot of people get fresh meat, fresh food. So I've had to adjust to eating healthy. And I don't know what McDonald's is like in Canada, but here in Germany, I was blown away because I'm not saying this kidding. German McDonald's would be equitable to like a sit-down restaurant in America. Not high end, but like the food quality is totally different menu. I remember thinking, what the hell? Like this is not fast food. This is bourgeois.
You know what? I went to A&W a couple weeks ago. Do you remember A&W? Mm-hmm. We still got them up here.
Yeah.
My boss and I grabbed 2 burgers. $19.70 for 2 burgers. No drinks, no French fries, nothing. Yes. No onion rings. No. $20 for 2 fucking burgers. Pardon my language. Astral Pilot Productions. I would love to. Here's my email.
Oh yeah, we'll try having 3 little ones too. So now that is one complaint I have. Yeah, going through the drive-through of McDonald's with 3 little ones, even the Happy Meals, you're walking away like spending $50.
I know.
Well, what the hell? Like what the hell?
Yeah. Cable guy Matt in the chat room. He's my cable guy, literally. Okay. And he's like, "Yeah, man, A&W's a ripoff." I actually complained on Twitter about it.
Yeah. No, it is. It's what happened to the good old-fashioned cheap food?
Where's that $1.99 hangover burger?
Yeah, the places that are open 24 hours, you roll in, half drunk or fully just blitzed, and you really need some good cheap food.
Exactly. Exactly, my friend. We've got about 40 seconds here. I want to say a big thank you to Carl times two, Andrew, Catfish, and Jeremy for the awesome super chats. It's a great way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. Thank you so much for doing that. And to all our new subscribers tuning on in. And if you're new to the chat room, the reason why we're kind of bantering right now is we are on break for our terrestrial radio stations. So that's the reason why we're on break. Hey, Michael Lestuca, how are you, man? Good to see you. And I think we're all caught up now. Okay, guys, like 5 seconds here, and we're going to get running. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for coming on out and hanging with us. We really appreciate earning your listening ears. And we want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight with Tim McMillan from thedebrief.org. He's one of the top reporters in the world when it comes to ufology and what is happening. Tim, thank you so much for joining us. We really do appreciate that.
Oh, thank you for having me on, man. It's great. It's been a great chat so far. It's always good to talk to you, Dave.
I appreciate that, my friend. Hey, I want to ask you right off the bat. I've been asking a lot of people this question. Why now? 70 years of cover-ups, 70 years of making people look like fools. People have committed suicide over this topic. People have gone away in straitjackets over this topic. They've been ridiculed, lost jobs, lost their reputations, everything, lost friends, lost family over this, Tim. And now all of a sudden we're supposed to believe that the government doesn't know anything about this. They're investigating this, and we got to get to the bottom of it, and we're going to come out and bring out that information on June 25th and tell you, the American and the world public, the truth. Why now?
Well, I think that's the big question on everybody's mind. I think in my opinion, I think there's a mundane answer to some degree, and I think some of the why now is kind of being forced into it, and so I certainly haven't agreed with everything that's been said or done, but some of those hats off have to go to the TTSA, or the formerly TTSA, when you had Mellon and Lou Elizondo and all those guys with them. I think that they created quite a bit of media attention there. I think that especially when you have somebody like Christopher Mellon, who was a former undersecretary for intelligence, who's talking about it, willing to talk about it. Somebody like Lou Elizondo, who, whether you want to debate his role in the Pentagon's UFO program or not, that's fine. But, I can tell you his background in government and positions that he held is definitely verifiable. And so when you have somebody like that stature coming out and talking about it, I think it's created quite a bit of attention. I think we're finally now kind of catching up to the attention it probably should have gotten in the mainstream, and for people who, an entire new generation who've kind of rediscovered this topic, going back to the 2017 New York Times. I always said, like, this is kind of a big deal. Like, why are we talking about it? So I think we're seeing the accumulation of that. I think, I don't think he gets enough credit, and that maybe is by design, because he's a smart guy. But I would say that Christopher Mellon is probably one of the principal key players here, simply because he's politically savvy, and he knows how to get the politicians on board. And so I think there's been a lot of lobbying, politicking, and presenting this in front of different lawmakers to say this is something significant, to try to peel back some of the stigma. And so it's interesting because I think for people who have been following this topic for decades, it's really surprising. They're like, why now? Or, why? What about the 90s, the 80s? There's a lot. Hell, why not the 60s, 70s? I think what we're seeing now is this kind of gap to where, going back to the late 60s and like the Condon report, and when the government kind of came out and said, all right, there's nothing to this, everybody shut up. If you're just a crazy kooky believer if you see this stuff and want to talk about it. This generation that gapped there, and now you have this whole new generation of people who haven't been made aware of all these really just unexplainable events that have gone on, and suddenly it seems new. And so we have, I guess, this new generation who's rediscovering it. I guess the question on everybody's mind, especially those who've been following this for decades, is what is the outcome going to be? Is this going to be different than what we saw, let's say, in the 60s when Blue Book came along, and a lot of the same, there were Senate hearings then, and it was in the news. That's I think the real question. And I know some people believe that this may be the impetus. This is the start of maybe forthcoming disclosure on more information. I hope so. And I say that certainly, again, not having nearly the background that even people like yourself and others, and like you said, make sure we give some props to a lot of the great Canadian researchers in this field, like Chris Rutkowski. Sorry, it's early, Chris. Sorry if I butchered your last name. And Grant Cameron, and I think I'll let even though Stanton was technically American, he lived in Canada. When he had dual citizen. Well, there you go. You got Stanton.
We stole him.
Good. Yeah. I mean, somebody like Stanton who, I would say should be up there with the legends who've really tried to stay in the good, credible realm of things. It's unfortunate because, like you said, it's unfortunate. That's bringing up Stanton. I'll say that's one of my regrets is that I never had an opportunity to talk to Stanton before he passed away. And it's unfortunate. I'd love to see his take. I wish he was on CNN right now. Somebody who's done this for decades and was a nuclear physicist, has this great background. I guess it's a long rambling way of saying I don't have an answer for why now. Is there some underlying something going on here where somebody's made a decision? Okay, we need to try to be more forthcoming about this, but how do we do this after we've dismissed it for decades? So we're going to do this kind of slow, I think people consider it a slow disclosure or drip. I don't know. I don't know. If you'd asked me a year ago, I'd have told you, no, I don't see that. You ask me now, I say, I don't know. One thing that I have come to kind of firmly realize is that the UFO topic in general is paranormal. And I mean that not like, UFOs are ghosts. I mean that it's hard, even for me, who's somebody who spent almost 2 decades of my adult life first in law enforcement, criminal investigations, where things are just the facts and things lead along these linear paths where you collect evidence and they lead to next things and you can kind of predict the outcome. But with this, it's paranormal in that it's very, very difficult to predict the outcome. It's very, very difficult. Nobody acts normally. I will go through battles with the DOD public affairs. Can you please give me a comment on this? Can you please do that? And nothing. You'll get ignored or you'll get silly, nonsensical answers. And then you'll have something like some of the recent leaks that we get. And I'll call up public affairs just, as journalists, you've got to make that effort. So you can at least, even if you put in the article, we reached out and they declined to comment, which is what you're kind of expecting. And the DOD's going, oh yeah, those are ours. They're real. Yep. That's it. And you're like, wait, what? That's not normal. You've never done that before. So I don't mean to sound exasperated, but I have, I've really, where we see a extreme acceleration of information right now. I will say from our end, and I talk about this with my colleagues at the debrief and everything, we're trying to take a different approach, which is, hey, let's slow down here. Let's not get caught up in this rush. Let's try to really figure out what's going on, because if you're driving 150 miles per hour, you're going to miss a lot of the scenery. So let's try to pay attention to what's going on 360 and not put out bad information. Yeah.
No, I hear you. I've looked at it this way, and maybe it's the experiencer in me. If I take the journalism hat off and put the woo hat on, I think, Tim, for me, it's one of two things. Either they're preparing us for something like Dr. Stephen Greer says about an alien false flag that could cause a lot of issues on the planet, and I roll my eyes with that too. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being highly unlikely to never, I would say a 1. All right? Or here's the other possibility. I think a date has been set. I think there was contact made and a date set, because now there is absolute priority to try and get this subject out there and in front of the masses as cleanly as possible without giving up 70 years full of secrets. Because otherwise, Tim, and look, I know people have said there's a lot of people looking in the skies. There's a lot of people, staring up at the stars, especially during COVID, seeing things. There's a lot of people who want answers. We can't hold people quiet in today's mediums, especially social mediums, forever. However, the government has done a great job for 70 plus years at keeping quiet on this. They usually need a real damn kick in the ass in order to make something go public of a topic that is this top secret for so long.
Sure. No, and I agree. And it's interesting watching that side because, especially the American government. I mean, that's where my bread and butter is. That's what I know the most about. They've lagged behind considerably in messaging and how they handle public information in general and information warfare. And so, besides just UFOs, that's kind of where my genre is. That's what I report on is the defense and intelligence communities and what's going on there. And, I've been highly critical for years of how the U.S. handles information. They've successfully gotten themselves beat up by Russia, ISIS, you name it. They're better at it. They're better at their Twitters. They're better at their propaganda. And so it's interesting watching now them try to even handle this subject. And so, it's hard for me to be dismissive of anything. And so, like you said, is there some kind of finite timeline here that's set not by us? It could be them, and by them, I say that broadly because I don't know what them is, but it's obviously something. I think I've always been one, and we've talked about this, that we should never be dismissive of experiencers like yourself and people who bring these types of things. Me having never had that kind of dramatic experience, like I want it, like I'm wanting to hang out in the woods and like, take me, I want to see what's going on. I wish I had some more insight there, but one thing is grossly apparent is that whatever it is, it's certainly more advanced than us. And so it would certainly be in control of things like that. Which would, I guess, bring up the overarching question, why now? What's the timeline? If it's not our timeline, why is it something else's timeline? Like, what's going on? And then it just gets in this realm of speculation and everything. But I don't know. It's if you ask me would things look like they do now, where you have a congressional report due in a month? If you'd asked me, was that going to happen a year ago, I'm like, I don't know about that. So it's hard for me to say, well, what's next year going to look like? Geez, I really don't know now. We may be part of the Galactic Federation by then.
True. But that brings up a good point. Haim Eshed, the Israeli defense master for the Israeli Space Force, he's gone silent since that happened. That was awfully weird, man, how all of a sudden he went so silent on that. And all I know is that when you look at everything that is very, very unique, like that comes out, he talks to the media for 2 days, and then he's gone. Nobody's talking to him now, like he's been shut down, or he probably got in trouble or whatever it may be, because the Israelis, they don't mess around with anything, especially their government. I'm just wondering, there's another tidbit to this information that we have to look at. This is something that we need to be able to stress about. Is that true? Is it not? I mean, it sounds BS, but what if it's true now? Now there's another, to me, that whole Galactic Federation, Tim, really falls into the same category as people believing Dr. Michael Salla in the fact that President Eisenhower had a meeting with aliens and traded humans for technology. We have to take it now with a grain of salt, but we can't rule it out.
Yeah, no, I mean, of course, and I think that's the thing. If you and I talk about this a lot, is that whether you are a believer, and that can have a lot of definitions, or you're a debunker and critic, it's amazing. You see, it's hard. I always say, be very, very cautious about making determinations on low information, but we see it on either side. And so let's say with the critics or debunkers, they will make determinations on that same low information that you can't bring a conclusion to any of that. And so you're right. It's when you listen to statements like that came out about this Galactic Federation and everything, I think I'm like yourself. You hear that and go, okay, this is sounding like a Star Trek episode. Like, what are we about here? That can't be real, because that's not the reality that I live in day to day. Like, that's not what I see. But if we let history be our guide here, the only thing that is certain is that everything that we hold true right now, that we consider to be ground truth and just self-accepted truth, we don't need to even see it, but we know that it's true because it just is, will someday be proven wrong. That's, if you go back 2,000 years, some people believe that a chariot, a god in a chariot brought the sun up every day, and that made sense. And then people came along and went, oh, no, wait, this is how the solar system works. So as we expand knowledge, the things that we accept is ground truth right now, that, oh, no, this is it. This is all there is. There's no such thing as extra dimensions, or it's impossible for aliens to be here. They can't, travel faster than the speed of light and everything. Is that going to be true 1,000 years from now? Are people 1,000 years from now going to look back on the people that are so dismissive of a lot of things that sound silly, going, gosh, they were dumb. They were heretics. They burned Avi Loeb at the stake for daring to say that Oumuamua could be a alien probe. Yet, wait, oh gosh, he was right. And I think that you have to be cautious. You shouldn't just believe everything because it's what you want to hear. But at the same time, unless you have that ground truth proof that it's not true, everything's on the table till it's not. And so I would say that in my own journey with this topic, that's been something that's changed with me over the years, is the willingness to not sit here and automatically say, well, that's silly. That's not, that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't work how things work. Because like I said earlier, especially with this topic, it's paranormal in that things don't work the way that you normally think they should. It's hard to predict.
Very true. Tim McMillan is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. And, we don't talk a lot of woo usually when you're on the show, but realistically, the way this entire phenomena is going right now and what isn't being released, it really does show that everything's on the table right now. Are you surprised that more people and more outlets, even your own, are not asking a lot of those questions as to what are the secrets that are going to come out June 25th and what secrets are going to be withheld?
I think that, for our part, I'll say that we have been asking those questions. We just don't get a lot of answers, or they're answers that I think maybe people don't want to hear yet, in terms of that, if you ask me right now, what is my thoughts of what's going to come out on June 25th? It is nothing. We're not going to get anything on June 25th. I believe, but again, I keep reiterating, it's paranormal. It's hard for me to predict now, but I believe there's probably going to be an extension requested for that whole report. And so I think that they're going to ask for another couple of months to get together. I believe that report will come before the end of the year, but I really don't foresee it coming before June is over. And to some degree, I understand why. I think there is, at this point right now, there's a legitimate reason why, and that being you have an entirely new executive presidential administration who just came in the United States. And so all of the principals who are in those seats, they're brand new. And so it's kind of the principal suspiciously looking at the student, wondering why they're skipping class. Yeah, okay, you've got a valid excuse, but I've got my eye on you. And so I think that saying, hey, we just got here, give us a little more time to get everything together, because the people who were in charge when that bill was passed in late December of last year, they're gone now. And so the new people are on their butts on the line. And so I think giving them a few more months is reasonable. Which brings us to the real question: what is eventually going to come out? Because I think that there's no way that nothing. I mean, if nothing came out, that would be. I would hope that a lot of the press across the world would start crying foul. But what eventually is going to come out, I think, if I was going to give my recommendation to you and your listeners, Dave, I would say just temper expectations. I don't foresee there being, a release to the crown jewels and the keys to the kingdom here about everything. I think that a lot of what I see, just basing it on my experience in covering defense and just bureaucracy in general with the U.S. government, you're looking at, I see a lot of symptoms of the start of a funding mechanism, meaning they're going to say, here's, we do have these incursions. We don't really know what's going on, but here's all the limitations of why we can't give you a firm conclusion. And so, we need a more permanent body in place to give you some answers, because that's one thing with a task force. Those are temporary entities. So even though the government has acknowledged they have a UAP task force, what they're really saying here is we've established an ad hoc temporary group to try to get to the bottom of this. But as we've said throughout the show so far, this is not a temporary problem. This is not like the hunt for bin Laden, where you've got this problem that's emerged and there's a solution that's there, and you've got a small kind of timeline in the grand scheme of things to figure out what's going on. This is something that's going back a very, very long time. And so you can't have a temporary entity. You've got to have it if you're going to try to come out and say, well, no, we don't have all the answers yet. And I think that's where a lot of people contend, and I can understand why, is, what do you mean you don't have all the answers? This isn't new. This isn't bin Laden. This isn't something just came. You had a tragic terrorist event that just popped up. This is something that's been going on for decades. Are you telling me you've had your head in the sand
Right.
for decades?
Right. Well, let's continue this talk when we come back. Lieutenant Tim McMillan on Spaced Out Radio from thedebrief.org, one of the great writers, journalists of the UFO field, all the way from Germany. We will be back with Lieutenant Tim right after this on Spaced Out Radio.
Question and good point, Dave. That's something I find myself doing that again, a year ago would have told you that's just not in my wheelhouse. It's starting to look a lot more and dig into some of the more historical cases.
Yeah.
Because there's, I think that's what's interesting is that it's almost kind of laughable if people are looking at it. And that's why I keep saying that all or nothing thing, that if you look at like the 2019 events or even the Tic Tac and thinking this is something new going on, and you're like, we got to figure out this new problem. Has China or Russia suddenly newly developed this technology? And interviewing some witnesses and digging into cases, even going back to the 60s, you're like, no, this is not new. And
nothing's new. Nothing's new. That's the bullshit part about it, bro. And this is where I know, like for me and even our listeners, we're the educated people who are studying this often or into this because they're experienced or whatever, and they have no convincing. Like, we're fed up. Like, when I saw that 60 Minutes report, dude, I was frustrated. Frustrated. But then, I had to have some people kick me in the ass and say, hey, you gotta just shut your mouth, Dave, and realize that to a bunch of people, like 6 to 9 million, they've never heard the story before.
Correct. And the people who are telling it,
Exactly.
That was one of the things. Graham Messick, who was the executive producer for that episode, he reached out to me months ago. So maybe going back to like February when 60 Minutes finally, and he told me he had been trying to get 60 Minutes to do something for years now, but they finally agreed. And so, but he reached out and he said, "Oh man, we need some help because we're new in this battle space. Like who's who, what's what." And he said up front, in fact, his exact words to me is like, "Man, you're going to be bored to tears when you see the episode because we're not going to be able to get into anything new. Like we're having to recap really just what's happened in the last 3 or 4 years."
Right. Hey, bud, I got to quickly run to the bathroom here. I'll be right back, okay?
Sure.
All right. Your mic is still on for YouTube. All right. Sorry about that, dude.
Fine. I just discovered that we're live streaming
Yeah.
on Twitter and
Yeah.
everything. So I'm looking at myself look at my phone right now, looking at Twitter. Like I'm entering an alternate dimension right
It's
now.
all
I got to
weird,
set it
man.
down. It's freaking me out.
Yeah, we kind of changed it up a little bit here.
No, I think, dude, it's great. It's great format, man. It's cool. And I really, I enjoy doing shows like yourself. Hey, because
Appreciate
me
that.
and you're friends, man,
Yeah.
and we get along. And you ask great questions.
Thank you,
But
bro.
I like shows like this where you've got the audience involved. You got questions in here, and
Give me 2 seconds. We're going to come back right now here, bro.
cool.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Here we go with hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. We welcome back everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Falsitical. Falsitical is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. All of our social media. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight with Tim McMillan from thedebrief.org. He is one of the best journalists when it comes to everything that is going on in the UFO world. You can find his articles at thedebrief.org. Tim, welcome back.
Yeah, well, it's good to be here, and welcome everybody listening. Fun times, a fun topic.
It is a fun topic, and it is fun times right now. But you know what? There's a lot of stress going on. People calling out Lou Elizondo, people calling out Dr. Stephen Greer, people calling out from the Pentagon saying that Elizondo is not the real deal. Others, like John Greenwald from the Black Vault, coming out today saying that he's got proof that the Pentagon was actually shredding emails and burning emails on Elizondo and his credibility. What do you know about that?
Well, kudos to John for getting that. I mean, but like everybody else, I found out when I saw his article yesterday, and I was mind blown when I read that. I mean, I don't even know what to say other than I cannot. And this goes into what we've been talking about for the past hour, where I've said that I've learned to be a lot more open-minded about things and even shed my own biases, that it doesn't matter if I have reported on the defense world or to some degree kind of grown up in the defense world, and think that gives me some understanding of how things are going to happen or should happen, because I look at that and go, whose idea was it to delete all of that? Like, who thought that was a good idea? That's bananas. I mean, on top of the fact that it is illegal, that they have these scheduling laws of when they're allowed to, how long they have to retain information, but then even giving Elizondo's claims and, their own questions of things that he said and their dispute of things that he said, to delete that is just mind-boggling. It reminds me of, for people who aren't aware of, the 2005 when the CIA deleted the detainee interrogation tapes. So the terrorist interrogation tapes. They wanted them deleted because they didn't want their agents' identities getting out there, this kind of thing. But everybody down to the president was like, no, you cannot delete these. This is illegal. Do not delete them. Do not delete them. And it went on for years. And then finally, just one person, head of operations, is like, we deleted them. You're like, what? Why would you do this? I cannot fathom why they would do that on a multitude of levels, including, and John did a good job in his article bringing that point up. Because let's set aside the UFO topic for a second. But in terms of Elizondo's job at the Pentagon, outside of UFOs, and one of it was being in charge of the special access program for the Guantanamo Bay detainee program. And so that's actually an ongoing thing. I mean, they keep pushing it back, but the Gitmo trials are supposed to come at some point where they examine, how the CIA went about interrogations there. And so as the special access program manager, that's something that, he's got information there that could be pertinent for any kind of cases there. And so to delete it, it's like, what? I don't know. That is, once again, how many times have I said it so far, how paranormal this topic is? Because it would be, to me, it would seem like if I was working at the Pentagon, if I was in charge of any kind of department agency here, I would have said, look, we can try to classify things, we can go through all of this, but deleting of them, that's just, that is, you might as well pour gasoline on the fire. Like, why would you do that? But in the comment that Elizondo gave John in that article, I tend to agree with him when he said, I highly doubt that they have been deleted. I agree with that too. Like, it's one of those things that I think I put out a meme that yesterday on Twitter, on my own Twitter, of the NSA laughing at the DOD saying they've been deleted. Because I'm thinking, no, nothing's ever really deleted in the cyber world. But the fact that that's what the claim is, that's mind blowing, Dave. It really is.
It really is. And it's going to be interesting to see if this gets swept under the rug or if it actually goes somewhere. Because if I know Danny Sheehan, and from the way people talk about him, he's not going to let this information go. He's going to go right after it.
As he should. And I will say that we, in editorial meetings yesterday with us at the debrief, that's what I meant when I said earlier, let's slow down a little bit. Let's not try to keep this pace that you're seeing in the news cycle where you're moving 150 miles per hour and you're missing everything around you, because this is one particular area there. I said, no, we have an obligation as journalists. At the end of the day, it's not about just selling clicks or, trying to get people to your site. Obviously, you need that to survive, but you should be doing journalism. You should be putting out information because you want to put out a service to the public. You're serving people by informing them. And I think this is an area that we have an obligation. We need to hammer in, and we need to find, we need to be doing our part in making the public informed and trying to call some people to the carpet and saying, hang on a second. Somebody committed a damn crime here. Somebody violated policy, violated law. Why? What else is going on? It needs to be addressed. And I think it needs to be addressed seriously. And I think that's one of the frustrating things. And I'm sure you and a lot of people would agree that if you took the UFO out of it and you put anything else, so if Elizondo was coming out saying that he had led the Russian investigation to political interference or...
Oh, we froze. Tim, you froze on us. Oh, what happened there? This is a first. Tim, are you back there?
Yeah, you got me? Yeah,
I got you now, brother.
Okay. If this was any other topic, all of the mainstream press would be just hammering up the DOD right now, going, what the hell are you doing? What is wrong with you? And so I hope that kind of outcome equally comes as well. So it's not just John who's doing the uncovering or us at the debrief trying to follow up with that. I hope some mainstream people are saying, Like, what are you doing? Like, that's nuts. That's just bananas to me.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see if it gets picked up. But all I know is that now that Luis Elizondo and Chris Mellon are both being represented by Daniel Sheehan, who loves taking on the government at any time, I mean, how much more credibility does this add to Elizondo's story where people are questioning still whether or not he's the real deal?
I mean, if nothing else, if you're questioning whether he's the real deal or his claims, and your basis of questioning it is solely on the statements that the government has put out, I would say that you're choosing the side that has continuously and demonstratively put out false information. And even because just recently as well, I think it was last week, the Pentagon once again updated their stance on the ATIP OSAP program, where, initially it was a UFO program, they admitted. Then it was, nope, had nothing to do with UFOs whatsoever. Nothing. To just recently, now they're like, well, yeah, maybe it had a little bit to do with UFOs. It's like, so if your basis of questioning Elizondo's credibility is on what the Pentagon said, I would say as of right now, it appears that you're staking your entire lot on someone who appears to be a serial liar, or at least at minimum doesn't appear to have all of their accurate information in a row. And so, yeah, I mean, I would say that's what's mind blowing to me, is for them to delete all those emails. It makes them look so bad. It questions their credibility. As an American citizen, it causes me a lot of concerns, because that's not the way. It's not the way democratic governments are supposed to work. You're supposed to work by the people. And Danny Sheehan, like you said, is somebody who has taken on these very cases for decades, going back to Watergate, where if we're going to have a true democratic freedom, that means the people have to have informed consent, and we have to. The government is supposed to be working for us, but when the government decides, screw it, let's just delete everything, or we'll tell you what you want to know, or we'll tell you what's important and what's not. That's not how things are supposed to work. Those are the actions of the types of governments that we criticize. Those are the actions of Russia. Those are the actions of China. So you got to live by you got to practice what you preach.
Right. But I mean, it's also showing the real political divide in the government. And it doesn't matter whether you're Democratic or you're Republican. It really is showing the divide, because the one thing Elizondo said last night, he goes, 50% want this out. They want to inform the public about what is going on. And the other 50% is trying to castrate the entire topic and get it out of the minds of people, whether it's because whether you're Democratic or Republican in the Congress buildings or the Senate, that there's still a strong belief of God, and in God we trust. And there's a lot of religious people out there who believe that anything from the sky could be negative demonic entities. I mean, we have to bring that up because religion does play a part of it. There's also those who feel that it's going to ruin all the secrets that the United States has, and it's going to be bad for their allies and everything like that. So, I mean, there's a lot at risk on the other side, too. But throwing Elizondo under the bus, the way Susan Goff has at the Pentagon, as well as others, is that really the way that this should be portrayed?
No, absolutely. And I teased this quite a while back. And people keep asking me every day, when is it coming? When is it coming? It's coming. Like I said, I try to run a marathon, not a sprint, but that I had interviewed a former senior principal DOD official, so somebody who held one of the highest offices in the branch of government they were in as part of the military. And we talked about UFOs, and it was really, really fascinating because they held the office during a time before the 2017 New York Times, before the UFO blitz. Okay. And it was interesting to find out that the topic of UFOs came up, regularly and frequently in their position. But them as the senior person. I mean, this is the person in charge. Talked to me and expressed frustration at the fact that their own people who work for them were dismissive of it, and that when they were asking, well, what the hell's going on here, they had already seen a lot of these videos that now have come out. So like the Nimitz and the 2015 events, they had seen these and said, well, what is this? And, the response was, I don't know, maybe glitches, maybe nothing. And, they were saying that doesn't make any damn sense. Like, what are you talking about? But, and they admitted that, I think the problem is that there's always a lot going on. And so you've got this and you've got this going on, you're asking questions, and the people who are supposed to provide you answers are being dismissive of it. But then at the same time, you've got all these other things that is dominating the world press or taking stage. North Korea is going to nuke us all, or Iran. And so suddenly your attention gets focused on that, and things just kind of get swept under the rug. But what that continues to show is what you just said. There is a divide to the point where you can have people who are supposed to be in charge, who are kind of held ransom in what they're able to even find out because of just the sprawling bureaucracy of it. And so if the underlings, if the middle management are dismissive or not looking into it and not providing it up the chain, it becomes a very difficult to get to any truth. And so, yeah, I'm certain. I would say Elizondo's statement there is 100% accurate with everything that I'm aware of, and everybody I've spoken to who works in government, who's familiar with this topic, is that it is. I might even go further and say maybe it's 60 to 70 in favor of wanting to know more, wanting to for themselves, wanting to know more for the public. But this smaller, 40 to 30% that are just like, nah, don't worry about that. Just, let's worry about this. And you're right. And then it turns into why, why in the 30%? I think, and I've brought this up in private conversations with people that, if you look at the interview that Mark Warner, who is the chairman of the Senate Select Intelligence Committee, so the people who actually requested the UAP report, he's the guy in charge of it. He hasn't spoken out much on this, but a couple of weeks ago, I think it was an interview that was actually arranged through George Knapp, but he did a brief interview on it. And, his general gist was, yeah, we don't know what this is, but we're going to try to figure it out. But his parting words at the end were, I don't know. I think it's probably just a foreign adversary. And he kind of like chuckles. And I'm looking at this going, wait, what? Like, putting that in total perspective, it's kind of like if somebody ran in right now to your studio, Dave, and said, hey, there's a suspicious package outside, and you went, oh yeah, it's probably just a bomb. Don't worry. Like the idea that he's laughing off, it's probably a foreign adversary. If you really believe that, that's terrifying because you're just laughing off and not treating seriously a potential threat. B, I don't believe that you believe it's a foreign adversary because maybe call me an idealist, but I'd like to think that the political leadership, if they truly believe that, would not be laughing it off. And I look at stuff like that, and I wonder, gosh, why isn't the mainstream press hammering that? Why isn't CNN and everybody going, hey, wait a damn minute? If you really believe it's a foreign adversary, why are we not making a bigger deal out of this? Goes back into that what I said. It's paranormal. Nobody acts normal.
Very true. Very true. Tim, when we look at this subject from a Washington point of view and what is happening there, okay, one thing that caught me off guard recently, and maybe I'm looking at this from an outsider's perspective because I'm not American, but I found it very interesting that if you go back in history 6 years ago, we saw President Obama go on Jimmy Kimmel and say he knew nothing about UFOs. Absolutely nothing. And then recently he goes on James Corden. He starts off saying, I knew nothing when I entered office. He's stuttering and stumbling. If you watched his body language and the way he was speaking. And then all of a sudden it was like a light switch went on. And he starts giving the entire narrative about these craft that are entering military airspaces, like he has studied a rap sheet on these craft and is now talking about it. And then at the end, he goes right back to fumbling and bumbling his words. I'm not trying to say that insult of President Obama, but it looked highly uncomfortable except for that middle portion. Did you notice that too, number one? And number two, if he did know about it and was debriefed on it, as any president should be, does this not make him a liar in front of the American public that he should be called out on?
Sure. No, that's all very valid questions, and that's a tough ticket to book. But I'd love to be able to speak to President Obama and get some more intel on that, and get some backstory in there. But yeah, and this goes back to something we talked about really early on in the show, is the why now. And we talked, I discussed that people like Chris Mellon and people coming out and talking about it, I think deserve a lot of credit for it coming forward. And one reason for that, and I encounter this quite frequently from the investigative side and as a journalist, and I'm sure you've encountered the same thing. It even goes back to criminal investigations. Typically, nobody wants to be the first person who talks about it, but once somebody else talks about it, then it's like, okay, now it's accepted. Oh wait, Chris Mellon talked about it and nobody, strung him up and burned him at the stake. Or, we have other, former CIA directors who's talking about it now and nobody's, stoned them. So, hey, maybe it's okay to be a little more forthcoming and say, yeah, you know what, this stuff is happening. It's real. I think if you go back to the joking comments with Jimmy Kimmel, I think you're looking at it at a time when you didn't have these kind of major, more modern players coming out and saying this is real. And so you don't want to be that first one. And especially, and I've pointed this out, when you look at somebody like Marco Rubio, who's come out and he's talked pretty considerably on this subject, is it's important for people to realize, whether, especially when you're president, but even when you're in positions like Marco Rubio and you're in Congress, you can get some candid responses if you catch them on the street corner and you see somebody with their cell phone, hey, tell me about UFOs, and you see them respond. That might be candid. But when you see any politicians doing interviews, what they're going to discuss and the outcome of what they're going to discuss politically for their careers is a conversation that goes on amongst their staff. There's multiple people involved. There's multiple advisors. And because they're always concerned is, how is this going to come back on us? And you look at somebody like Marco Rubio, who could end up trying to run for president again.
We're going to see where it goes, my friend, as we got to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Tim McMillan from the debrief.org. This man knows what's going on. He's got the pulse of the UFO field. And we're going to continue the conversation of UFOs. Why now? What's happening in the end of June? Will we get the goodies, or will we get spilled milk all over the place? Spaced Out Radio continues right after this.
Hello,
Oh, I hit the wrong button there. Turned you down instead of turning the stereo down. Hey, how's it going, Tim?
Hey, man, what's going on, bud?
Oh, living the dream.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But yeah, and I'll be, when we get back on air, I'll be glad to finish that answer if you want me to. But the long story short is, I think that when what Obama said, what he said on Jimmy Kimmel, was very much like a lot of the other presidents. They're on a comedy late night show, and the decision beforehand is, we're going to play to that crowd. we're going to make a joke out of it. And, because I think if that's the same Kimmel interview I'm thinking of, this is one where Obama said something about the aliens won't let us tell the truth.
Could be.
But I think now he was being a little more forthcoming. I think some of the stumbling, frankly, is because, just like I said, everything is parried. What are they going to say? What's the outcome going to be of what I say? And so in the back of his mind, I imagine he's probably wondering, is anybody going to ask me the question, which they should? Well, wait a second, Mr. President. If what you're saying is true, then why in the hell, when you were president, did you not make a bigger deal out of this?
Yeah, but you can say the same thing about Harry Reid.
I agreed, I keep our schedules haven't connected, but I've spoken to his assistant several times to try to speak to Harry Reid, because I'd like to ask that very same question. I mean, I'm sure he has an answer, but I want to know, like, why now? Why, when you were actually holding office and had power to do something, did you not make this a big deal? Why are you making a big deal now?
But doesn't it also go to show the amount of power Harry Reid has if he's still one of the main forces in protecting Elizondo in Washington?
Sure. Oh, yeah.
I mean,
absolutely.
You're not elected. You shouldn't have any power whatsoever. Boy, I passed that sneeze right over to you.
Oh, God. No, yeah, sorry. Yeah, no, it's been a rough couple of weeks. I got my second COVID vaccine a week ago, and man, like the last 3 days after that, I was wiped out. And then somehow now I've picked up a cold since. So Jesus, it's probably the secret keepers trying to keep me down.
Oh yes, they've you got injected with the chip. You got the chip.
Yep. I got the chip, man.
According to Nicole Sakic, she states the theory is that a sitting president will not publicly comment on this topic, so that's why now with Obama.
And that may very well be true. And is that a current question? Is Nicole listening in?
Yeah,
I know
she's listening right now.
Oh, hey, Nicole, because we had a good chat when I was on your roundtable, which was cool for you to invite me on. We'll have to pick that chat up again. Yeah. Nicole was the one who, she's the one who put me on the hot seat, which was, I appreciated. Are you a disinformation agent, Tim?
Yeah, not bad for a cook.
No.
I bug because her and I have the same troll. He calls me irresponsible journalist and calls her just a cook.
Just a cook?
Just a cook.
What is it? People are silly. I mean, it's, I don't even know. Okay. People are silly.
Yeah.
But I get the same criticisms and stuff. And it goes back to what we were talking about with the criticisms with Elizondo. I respect and appreciate people asking questions. I respect and appreciate Nicole saying, hey, look, some people think you're a disinfo agent. What do you have to say about that? It's the ones who just say stuff. I think that's the most frustrating thing. You deal with that, I'm sure, is where people make accusations or even criticize your work. And you're like, dude, I'm right here. Like, you can just call me. You can email me. Like, if you've got a question, man, why are you just...
I recently got called out by someone who I thought was close to me about all my experiences that I've had. I'm lying to my audience. What sense does that make? Do you, as I say to people, as we got about 20 seconds, do you really think that if I didn't have all of these experiences, that I would be pouring all of my efforts into a nighttime radio show where I don't get paid 5 nights a week? Right?
Yeah. What benefit?
Right. Hold on, Tim. Hold on.
Mm-hmm.
We passed the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, we got our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on from the debrief.org. Tim McMillan is here. Tim, welcome back.
Well, good to be here, man. And thanks for everybody listening in. And in the brief intermission there, I would just like to say, no, Nicole, unfortunately, I have not gotten any paychecks.
Yes, because you are CIA, yes.
If I was, I will just tell you that they have the worst benefits and pay in the world because they're non-existent. And or they're the best employer because they're non-existent for me.
Right. Right. I got asked the other day, would I quit Spaced Out Radio by someone in the field? Mm-hmm. And I said for $200,000 a year, because I'm not going to work two jobs anymore. I need $200,000. Why I came up with $200,000, I don't know. I really don't know. It's the first number that popped in my head because it sounded really good. Really good.
Sure.
Yeah.
So,
question from Shadow Time here. Was Luis Elizondo's father involved with Operation Northwoods?
Yes. To the best of my knowledge, that's true.
That's interesting. What is Operation Northwoods for people who don't know?
Well, let me caveat that. If you're talking about was Luis Elizondo's father involved in different CIA-backed operations that involved the trying to infiltrate Cuba and Cuban resistance, to the best of my knowledge, that is accurate. And in fact, to the point where having spoken with Luis Elizondo's father, his father was a Cuban resistance fighter, and in fact spent time in Cuban prison. Was arrested by Castro's people. To that end, I will say that everything that I've heard and what I've been told is that's a true statement. Luis Elizondo grew up in Miami to the son of a Cuban resistance fighter, which is really interesting. I mean, it's a unique background. I think I've told him this and try to get a real handle on who is Lou Elizondo, and interviewing friends of his going all the way back to the Army and his father, his wife, all these people. He's got a very interesting background that none of which says that, oh, he's a big disinfo agent and this is, all of it. It's actually, to me, the exact opposite. And I think that, coming out and knowing where he came from and the fact that he's the son of a resistance fighter, somebody who fought against a very oppressive regime, who commits all sorts of human rights violations, maybe gives you a better understanding that this is the type of person who does come from the background that's going to stand up and even at risk of ridicule and everything else that you would face by talking about UFOs and coming out, that's the type of person that comes from the genes that fight for what they believe in, frankly. And so really, that question caught me off guard. No one's ever asked that. I'm surprised. Did that come up in his interview recently, or is that?
I don't know. Sometimes the audience just comes up with some incredible questions.
Great question. And so, because now that's out there, because I've never had an opportunity where, I felt like it was relevant to put an article out, and a lot of that background about Lou's upbringing and parents and everything was all me trying to verify, is this guy who he says he is? So, it wasn't necessarily for any type of article, but to the best of my knowledge, that is very much accurate. That his father was a Cuban resistance fighter, whether or not he was involved in Operation Northwoods, which off the top of my head, I believe was one of the CIA back. They were constantly trying to infiltrate Cuba and the Bay of Pigs and all of this. So, whether he was involved in that particular operation or not, I don't know. Whether or not, the CIA, just saying the CIA backs something like that doesn't mean that you're like meeting at Langley every day and getting your marching orders. But in a roundabout way, yeah, no, that's true.
All right. Irish Lincoln is asking, what are your thoughts on Gary Shewfield's NFT being pulled by Rarible?
I am going to say that I honestly am not sure.
That's the alien autopsy video.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. I was thinking that with Ray Santilli. Well, we did that story on the debrief when we found out that was for auction. And that was one of those ones where I said that people may not agree with it, but I considered it. And that wasn't my story. That was Chris Plain, who writes for us, really good writer, who did that one. But I told him, I said, people are probably not going to consider it this way, but I think that's real service journalism in that, everything that we know about this, and some really good researchers like Philip Mantle, who spoke to us for that article, even Kit Green, who initially, was duped into believing it was real, has all said this was a fake, it's a hoax. And I think even Santilli's come out and said it's a hoax. I mean, all these people have said that. And so I remember when I saw that whole, it was being sold as an NFT for $1 million starting bid. I remember going, come on, dude. I think it's one thing if you're going to sell it and say, hey, here's the slide from this famous hoax, own a piece of historical oddity. Okay, that's cool. But if you're going to try to bill it as this being real, and then especially $1 million, come on. I think that goes into the realm of you're just taking advantage of people. And that's not cool. You're perpetrating a scam, which you already tried to perpetrate the first time, admitted, and then now you're like, hey, we're going to re-scam it. Like, come on, dude. And so, I that was one of the articles I was glad to see us cover and get out there because, hey, at least that way, if somebody paid $1 million for it, up front this is not real. As far as them pulling it, we were told that they pulled the listing, and then so we reached out to Rarible and said, what's the deal? And they told us that it had not been pulled and that it was a glitch in the system, and gave us a different link for it, which I think we updated in our article. So now if anything's changed beyond that, I'm not sure. So I don't know for a fact. Last I heard it had not been pulled, but maybe it has. Well, I'll get MJ down. Or them to check on it.
Yeah, the site did go down today. And, of course, there was all the rumors about whether or not the government had pulled it down and, little ridiculous stuff like that. But, I mean, it's kind of interesting on how it plays out. I don't know how it really works or anything, but I don't even understand why people would pay that kind of money or anything for an NFT. Like, Jack Dorsey's first tweet on Twitter, sold for like $2.5 million or something like that. Why?
Dave, I don't know. Maybe I'm just getting older because I find myself reaching this point in life where I look at a lot of things and I'm going, I just don't understand that. And I don't understand you crazy kids nowadays, because I do not understand the whole NFT thing in general. It's this idea that you're like, well, I own it, but anybody else can use it. And, it's like, but what? It's kind of like owning magic. And we've covered some of those stories, and I've seen some of it where people paying just ridiculous millions and millions of dollars for somebody paid an ungodly amount for like a pixel. And I'm going, why? If that's the case, you just got too much money. And I mean, there's a lot of people out there who could use a little more money would be able to do better things with it.
Wait until they start putting rookie cards up of like Michael Jordan, Wayne Gretzky, LeBron James, or Mickey Mantle or Babe Ruth. That's going to go crazy, dude. Crazy. Let's get to a question here from the audience. This one comes from Joe. Tim, if you were offered a ride on a UFO by aliens, would you go?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Sure would.
What
I mean, why not?
What if it was one way?
No. I wouldn't do it if it was one way. And because at the end of the day, like you said very early on the show, I am a family man. I mean, that's why I walked away from, I bought out my last 3 years to reach my 20 to get a retirement from law enforcement. Is because it was a job that was very demanding and took me away from my family. And I have three little kids. And so if it was a one way, no, because, that would be, not being able to watch my kids grow up and spending time with them would ruin the deal for me. But if it was just a tour around, heck yeah, why not? I'd do it all day long.
All right, let's get to another question. Scott Brown is asking whether or not you have any new UFO news that's going to be hot off the presses anytime soon that we haven't heard about yet.
I do have a couple of things in the works that is probably not going to me, they're really exciting. To me, they're meaningful. They're well researched. I've spent a lot of time on it, and I think it will put a really interesting kind of broader picture on things. Is it new, groundbreaking? Like, is it going to be some kind of great new leaked information? Let's say comparable to when I did the article about the Bass 10-month report or even the Fast Movers article. No, it's not that. To me, I think I do have a lot of things in the works that I think are really good articles that will hopefully kind of add to the body of knowledge of this going forward. But they're not going to be that big. Everybody right now is waiting for like the big, who's going to wheel out the Roswell bodies. And I don't have that. If I did, that's one thing is that we've never withheld anything. I won't withhold anything unless it's something like this where I'm working on it on a length of time. But, if I got, like say the triangle photo that everybody wants, that kind of stuff, if I had that and could release it, I would have done it a long time ago and would do it today, because that's always been a big focus of mine is let's get stuff out there. Let's try to get it out accurate. Let's try not to just throw it out there and say, here you go. Let's, you make up your mind. So let's try to add some more context to it. But also I don't play these games that I see some play where they have this hoard of secret knowledge. The only things that I might be a little cagey about is sources and information like that. Like, I'm not going to burn sources and I'm not going to burn people like that. But if it's good information, man, I want to get it out there. So, sure, I've always got stuff in the works. Is it anything that's going to blow minds and shatter things? Probably not, simply because right now the expectations of UFO information is super, super high. Everybody's like, no, but are you going to give us the whole 100-day report? No, unfortunately not. Wish I had it.
June 25th.
Yeah.
This is the big date. I know we touched on it a little bit earlier, but we got to have some real focus on this thing, is because we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to come up. This thing could be a total embarrassment for the entire UFO field, or it could end up with a certain president standing at a podium saying, "My fellow Americans." It could go either way. We don't know where it's going. Your sources, what are they telling you on what's going to come up, or will the report be delayed?
The best of my knowledge from people I speak to that are being cautious here, that would know, is I would expect a delay. I would expect a request for an extension and more time being asked. I would also expect that The crown jewels are not going to be released whenever any report comes out. So you're not going to get. I would be shocked if anybody got any videos or images. You may get a broad overview of, we do have, these number of sightings, or we've had these number of events. I think that a significant portion of that report will go into the limitations and difficulties in providing more information. And so, again, everything I think that I have indication of is this is a lot like a mechanism to try to get more expansive support, authority, in particular, getting a type of joint forces authority. And I think that's one thing that's missing, even now with this task force, is that even now they do not have the type of authority and power behind them that they could just walk into any agency, or, we had this, the Navy's reported this sighting. And so they go to the NRO or the National Reconnaissance Agency, or the, even the Air Force, and say, hey, did you guys have anything, or do you have any data? And if those agencies go, piss off, dude, we don't have time for this. They don't have the muscle behind them to go, oh, no, you're going to listen to us. Now, the one real trump card here is the involvement by the Inspector General's office that's come in. That is really, really fascinating. And that, quite frankly, I think could be much more significant than even the 180-day report. The IG's office as a whole, it's a beast of another animal now.
And once again, that's being corn-fed by Luis Elizondo and Daniel Sheehan.
Correct. They've thrown their hat in the ring. This is what makes it really interesting, is that I feel highly, highly confident in saying that initially there was a lot of political pressure, which is a good thing. That means that some of the politicians were already expressing frustration towards the Inspector General's office to get involved. And then I think once they said, okay, we'll look into this, like you said, I think now Luis Elizondo and his attorney, Daniel Sheehan, had thrown their hat in the ring and saying, hey, if you're going to be looking at this entire topic and how it's being handled, you need to also look at how Elizondo has been handled. And that's really, like I said, it's one of those ones that will certainly not be as public facing. The IG is, they've called in Joe Friday. I mean, they're as straight laced as they come, just the facts. Nobody, the outcomes of what they deal with can ruin careers. Bad IG reports can spell the end of your career. It doesn't matter who you are, short of the Secretary of Defense or the president. Nobody can tell the IG, I don't have time for this. Like, you're going to come sit and you're going to talk and you're going to be truthful. It's like being in an internal affairs investigation. And so they have tremendous power. And so I'm really, really, I think I'm more intrigued by what is going to be the outcome of the IG's involvement as opposed to the 180-day report, to be honest with you. Because the IG is that they're a separate entity, and they're, if you look at any of their previous work, what their report could ultimately look like could be incredible compared to the 180-day report. The best example I can give is that during President Trump's tenure, they investigated a single tweet that he put out, and they turned in like 165-page report and said the president's wrong. I mean, that's pretty impressive, you're like the chief executive. So I'll be very, very interested, very, very interested to see what comes out of that. That could end up being a much more substantial player in this game than people realize.
That is very true. Let's get to a question from Jonathan here. Tim, has the triangle coming out of the ocean pic going to be released? And have you seen it? Yes or no?
I don't know in terms of whether it's going to be released. I've told everybody I do not have any copy that I can release. I don't have a copy to put out of there. In terms of what I have or haven't seen, I'll just say that I'm extremely confident that it exists. But again, like that image and that whole kind of sequence that goes with that image, those are different than some of the leaks that we've seen recently. Those leaks that we've seen recently are all, to the best of my knowledge, unclassified. Though they're for official use, it's not like they're meant to be publicly disseminated. Whereas the triangle photograph is classified. It's in a whole new ball game. If that came out through unofficial channels, that's something that you're going to see spurn real deal and FBI investigations. People go to prison for type deal. So I would love to see it come out. I think that would be great. When or if, I don't know. And I think part of that relates to the fact that initially, in some of the talking, some of the conversations that I had with sources and everything when we were working on that Fast Movers, I think there was some confusion on my own part in terms of how that photograph was captured. And I think even going back to that, I think initially there was the indication that it might have been captured by a cell phone image similar to the series of images that one of which that we have published in December, and then George Knapp later has published those 3 images that were captured with a cell phone. I believe the triangle photograph was actually captured with a actual U.S. platform sensor system that is possibly extremely classified. And so that's going to be one of the roadblocks there as well. It's not just that this triangle or whatever it was is classified, rather how that image was captured is classified. So I hope so. I mean, everybody who has seen it describes it as a very high fidelity image that begs the question, like, what the hell is that? So the short question that everybody keeps answering is, please stop expecting me to suddenly come out of the blue and drop this triangle photo. Because if anybody in government thought that I recently had it, they'd probably have the FBI over here in Germany searching the house. But because, to the best of my knowledge, that is a highly classified image.
Well, we're going to see how highly classified it is, because Lou Elizondo last night on the show stated that he believes there is a very interesting video about to come out. Very interesting video that is more compelling than what we have ever seen. And I'm going to be curious about that. I really am. I hope we're not setting ourselves up for any sort of disappointment with that, because I think we've seen some great videos. I think we've seen nothing out of the sorts that says, ooh, that is a UFO. There is no hammer and sickle on that tail wing or anything like that. Tim, I'm going to get you to hold on right there, because we're 2 hours down already. We have Lieutenant Tim McMillan from the debrief.org on for another 30 minutes before we get to the SOR Newswire and the Thought of the Dave. Stay tuned. Spaced Out Radio continues with hour number 3 right after this. All right, I'm just gonna run away for a second here. I'll be right back. Okay, bro?
Sure.
Do you want me to pot your mic down?
No, I got it.
Okay. Be right back. All right, buddy, I'm back.
Oh, yeah. Now, when we go back on there, now I do have some interesting tidbits about video evidence that exists out there. That I'd be willing to share.
Sure, that sounds juicy. We like
Yeah,
juice
yeah.
around here.
Yeah. Stuff that hasn't been reported on,
Yeah.
even by me yet. Just I don't have time, man. That's the thing is I need an assistant. I need like.
I know the feeling. And you only work one job.
Yeah, but that's the bad thing is now because like I run all the day to day for the debrief, and so that takes up a lot of time. I don't get to do a lot of the good investigative journalism that I like, or it just slows things down.
Tell me about it.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate that, man, and I appreciate that sentiment. Are you going to be up for a bit after the show? I guess so, because it's daytime.
Yeah. Yep.
When I'm done with the show, I'm going to give you a call afterwards, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Yeah, just to catch up on some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, no problem. And I know everybody, I'm glad Scott mentioned the triangle thing. Everybody keeps asking about that. I know there's some debate about it. I know myself and Tom Rogan are really confident on it. I know Knapp has said he hasn't talked to anybody who said that they've seen it, that type of thing. So it's one of these interesting ones where I don't know, like that one seems to that article. I don't think people realize the Fast Movers article set off a lot of nerves inside DC and Washington. And that's when people are like, you got any new info? I'm like, you got to understand. It's kind of like when Glenn Greenwald, after he published the Snowden leaks and everything.
Yeah. We got 8 seconds, dude.
When you publish something like that, you become volatile.
There you go. Perfect.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is underway tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Big thank you to everyone tuning in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. What do you got for us, Clam? Falsidical. Falsidical is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Tim McMillan is with us until the bottom of the hour. He's with the debrief.org. You want to check him out if you want to stay up to date on the UFO news that is being put out there to the world. Tim, welcome back.
Well, welcome. Good to be here, man. I can't believe time's flying by. Jeez,
I know.
We are 2 hours. It's crazy.
I know. It is insane. I want to ask you a quick question from Solar Warden here. USS Trepang 1971 pics. Have you ever seen them, Tim? Some weird crap if they are real.
Can you describe them for me? Because is that the ones coming out of the water as well? Is that the triangle? Is that what that is? Do you know, Dave?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm Googling right now.
Okay. Yeah, because the name there, the USS Trepang 71, doesn't ring a bell, other than I think that maybe that is a reference to some interesting triangle pics.
Yeah, it looks like a triangle coming out of the water and a big Tic Tac type of aircraft.
Yeah, I have seen those images, and I think that somebody, maybe John Greenwald at the Black Vault, I think there's been some contention that that is a type of radar balloon deal or some type of aerostat. I'll say I don't know, other than they're interesting. They're very compelling. And so I think that the belief that there are radar balloons or some type of aerostat comes from that they resemble some that existed. Whether that is exactly what we're looking at there or not, I don't know. I don't know that those have been completely debunked or proven to be exactly what it is, other than the really sprinkled out there accounts of triangles or objects that are, transmedium is now the new buzzword, that are going in and out of the water. They are out there throughout, again, going back kind of decades. And frankly, I've said that I don't know that we really have a firm grasp on just how frequent those types of sightings are, or in particular sightings related to maritime in the oceans are. Because if you consider, at one point, one of my gigs in law enforcement was actually working with customs when they'd have new ships that would come in at the Savannah port, the port authority there at Savannah, which is a major hub, to board the vessels and search them before they would come into port if they were from a country or a company that had never ported before. And I can tell you that, this 98% of these merchant vessels, or a lot of the commerce that's traveling on the waterways every day, these are foreign-based companies. They're from different areas, Africa, Eastern Europe. And you look at that and go, if these people are seeing stuff, who did they report that to? Probably no one. I mean, it's how many unreported things, could merchant vessels that are on these waterways be seeing? I mean, there could be ungodly amount of data out there that's never been recorded, because if you're from Moldova and you're on a merchant vessel for 4 months and a triangle emerges out of the ocean and zips past you, you port in another country, you port in America, who are you going to report that to? And then when you get back to Moldova, who are you going to report that to? And so unlike civilian sightings that we have that are over bodies of land, where especially we have organizations like MUFON or NICAP, different organizations that you can report them to, or Twitter or any of that. These types of things don't have those same reporting mechanisms. So I think it's fascinating. I think that if we did have reporting mechanisms there, that suddenly the number of sightings involving ocean-based craft or objects would go up exponentially and would add a whole new, really dynamic to this whole topic.
Yes, it really would. It really would. Let's get to Jonathan's question, because this is pretty interesting. He asked it earlier, and I missed it, and I apologize from our chat room. But he is asking about the heads of the Vatican are heading over to the United States. Do you think that there is going to be UFO talk, considering the Pope a couple of years ago came out and basically said that if aliens do exist and they are coming to Earth, we will bless them to become good Christian folk? All right. Do you expect there to be any UFO talk within those meetings?
I don't know. And I and I hate to speculate there, simply because that, the Vatican and what's going on with them is not something that I'm well versed in. And so I don't know. I don't have a single solitary source inside of that to even give me a hint to if there's some discussion about it internally in the Vatican. So I know that's a terrible answer, but I don't know. It would be interesting. It wouldn't shock me, given the fact that it's a topic that's really out there right now. And I think for any major religions of the world, like the Catholic Church, wanting to be ahead of it and address it and impact that if suddenly, disclosure, capital D disclosure, was able to come out, the impact that would have on religions is something they're going to want to get a handle on first, because they're going to have adherents who are going to say, well, what does this mean? I don't remember aliens in the Bible. What does this mean?
Oh, very true. Very true. Okay, videos. You wanted to discuss videos that you got some tidbits of information that you haven't even written yet that you want to get out there.
Sure. Yeah. Because, you asked earlier about the triangle. A lot of people ask about that or ask about different information the government has. And so I will say a couple of things that I haven't said anywhere. So here you go. These are the Spaced Out Radio exclusives. In terms of why, what is guiding this current news and why are these senators talking about it? What has gone on in classified briefings? I can't tell you there because often if it's classified, it's guarded off. But I can say that with a very high degree of confidence that one piece of evidence that has not been released or really discussed is that the government within recent history, so the last couple of years, I think, let's say 2016-ish, maybe 15. I don't have it in front of me, but the government has been able to capture, high fidelity videos of what they consider to be UAP or UFOs that are in the length of time that we're talking 18 to 20 minutes. So we're not talking about these quick little 1 minute videos that we're seeing right now. I mean, something that was captured on sensor systems for an extremely extended period of time, because a lot of this information is not public, is guarded off. I don't have any more details as to what is being shown there, other than these were videos captured on U.S. sensor platforms. So this isn't cell phone video here. This is the real deal. In fact, I know there's at least, whether this is the same video or not, I'm not sure, but I know that they have captured imagery from at least one incident from a fire scout, which is if I was familiar, that's the helicopter drones that are on the back of some of the naval carriers, which is interesting because these are stable platforms. And so there is more stuff out there. I think Luis Elizondo has mentioned this publicly as well, and I, independent of him ever having said it, I also have heard that there is fidelity imagery of these objects as close as up to 50 feet. So very, very close imagery that have been taken, including imagery that's been taken from multiple systems. So you don't just have one camera filming it, you've got multiple, which I really, really would love to get more info about that. I would love to get, because that's one of the things I don't know. There was a really good article that was put out by the Washington Examiner by a guest writer who I believe was a physicist. And he approached this topic unlike 99% of scientists do. I think that the headline was, how the UFO could, or how the Navy could catch UFOs or something. And he approached it from a physics standpoint of not trying to debunk this or anything. He said, let's look at this as what this could possibly mean from a physics standpoint, how we can measure this in a theoretical framework, which frankly, it's the exact same thing they do with string theory. It's what they do with dark matter. Like, this should not be considered silly or fringe science. And he discussed that one possibility that could explain the behaviors and things that we're seeing is that we are seeing objects that are five-dimensional objects. So something where we operate in a three-dimensional world, this is something that operates in a five-dimensional world. And I'm not going to butcher all the physics here, but I thought it was a very interesting theoretical discussion. But one of the things he brought up, and how can you capture that to be true, is if you are able to capture that on multiple imagery systems, in particular, at least two, where you have one, facing head on and then another at a 90-degree angle. Because if we're talking about a fifth dimension object, the one forward facing, you're going to see, let's say the Tic Tac, you're going to see the solid form. You're like, okay, there it is. But that one at the 90-degree angle is going to be at 2 dimensions. So it's going to be flat. So you're going to see a difference in appearance. And suddenly that gives you some insight into how are these things appearing? How are these things traveling? Why are they so elusive? Well, they're kind of which again fits in what is considered mainstream science to engage in mental gymnastics about string theory. But the idea of different dimensions existing simultaneously is accepted in mainstream science. And so this is a way where you're looking at it in this is how this could be true, and we could prove these alternate dimensions exist. That was really, really interesting. But I do know that there is some imagery that's been captured from multiple systems. There's a video that it's from the 90s. It's actually on our Debrief YouTube channel. We uploaded it, but it's not ours by any means. And in fact, it originally appeared, it was on one of these, like Inside Edition or something. Not necessarily your most highly credible television programs or journalists. It wasn't 60 Minutes, but of a UFO filmed over Nellis Range. Are you familiar with that one, Dave?
I believe I've seen that video, yes.
Okay. And like I said, you can see it on YouTube. It's on our Debrief YouTube channel, but I'm not trying to plug us here. I'm more the video.
You're kind of allowed to.
Yeah, I know, but we'll go, make sure to check us out and subscribe. We do have some great podcast guests as well. But that video, I had some people who are familiar with the current program who said that video is authentic. And I think the origin of it was a little dubious. Like they tried to sell it to Inside Edition or something, and it was supposedly filmed at 2 different radar stations. But people who I trust, who have provided reliable, accurate information consistently in the past and are in positions to know, they told me that video is real. And I think I encourage people to watch the video because it's very intriguing. It is a long video, so I think it's 20 minutes or more. But you'll notice that the object being filmed engages in some maneuvers that I am familiar that the government is highly interested in, which is kind of a consistent signature pattern of these objects that they're filming. And that is the best way I can describe it is it moves like a housefly in that it's chaotic. It's a little erratic. It, is going one way, then it darts another, acute angle turns that are not normal. We don't have craft that can fly that way. And that is actually, and this will be in an article I have coming up, but that consistent kind of flight pattern matches with some of the videos that have come out. We just didn't see it on those videos. So like the 2015 Roosevelt or the Tic Tac incident in 2004, there is more video of those incidences. And in those extended videos, or how they were able to, when you hear somebody like Ryan Graves say, we were on 60 Minutes, who was the pilot who filmed the gimbal and go fast video, how did we, how were we seeing them every day? Like what identified that? And, part of that clarity is that the signature pattern and how they were appearing on radar systems is that same chaotic housefly movement. And I think that that's a very intriguing part of it. And I hope more people kind of dig into, because that's not how planes fly. That's not how drones fly. This kind of erratic, again, the housefly is the best example I have, down to pilots I've interviewed who, when I've said, well, why, did you try to intercept? Like, why weren't you able to catch them? And he says, same thing. It's like, the housefly that's buzzing around, that's bugging you. And finally you say, I'm fed up. You grab the fly swatter, and then suddenly it's all over the place and you can't seem to pin it down, or it disappears. You're like, damn it, where'd it go? It flew out of the room. They describe very similar, which is, fascinating, because it really drives home the point. What are we talking about here? What's flying like that? How is that possible?
Very true. Very true. And that's part of the big answers that we have to try and figure out. We have to try and figure out. The issue that I see with a lot of people out there is we're tired of the grainy videos. We're tired of the blurred out images. We're tired of that. And at some point, as this conversation continues, Tim, will we see any sort of true video that shows a clear image of a craft moving beside an FA-18 Hornet or an F-35 or whatever? Because I think that's what the public needs. And we need more than 10, 15 seconds. We need around a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever it may be. Convince us. Make us believe for those who are skeptical.
No, sure. No, I've add me to that camp. Same way. I mean, that's my point with all of these videos in recent history that we've seen. So whether it's the Tic Tac, the Roosevelt, or the ones recently released by Jeremy Corbell, is there's not enough. I think you're making an incorrect conclusion if you're a debunker or skeptic and you're saying, okay, it's definitely this. Or I think if you are jumping in and saying, if you're more of a believer and going, oh, here we go, this is definitely a UFO or UAP, or it's not of this world, simply because there's just not enough info there. I mean, we don't have, I want to talk to the people who filmed it. Why are you filming it? There's so many pieces there that are missing. So you can't make a definitive conclusion. And are we going to see it? I don't know. I hate asking you a question, but I'm always curious. Is part of it, me wonders, the lack of good high fidelity and good imagery on this stuff, but a just dearth of credible eyewitnesses. Is the problem here us or them? Meaning, is there a reason that we can't get good imagery? Is there something that's going on here? Is it because there is good imagery that hasn't been released to the public, or is there we can't seem to get good imagery because whatever it is doesn't allow it? And speaking very broad strokes here, and by doesn't allow it, we could be saying overtly, prevents good imagery, or is it just based on the fact of where our technology and science is? If we're talking about something that is outside of our confines, like I brought up with this whole idea of an object in fifth dimension, do we even have the type of systems that could film something in fifth dimensions? I mean, I don't know. Putting on my cognitive psychology hat here, which is where my academic background is in, it's very accepted and proven in neuroscience that there is a just wealth of stimuli that are around us all the time that we don't perceive. There's a lot of stuff. I know we don't have enough time to get into all those studies. But we don't capture that on video either.
Here's my thing. There are thousands of people who are capturing potential UFOs on their cell phone. I think a $60 million FA-18 Super Hornet will have a high-quality enough camera to get us a clear image. Now, if it's moving at 80,000 feet per second, it's going to be tough. Let's just be honest. That's a blink of an eye. All right? Sure. And I get that, and I can appreciate that. But for something that's sitting out there, or when you have these drones or whatever you want to call them, hovering 60 feet over a helicopter pad of the USS Kidd, that's pretty easy to take a photograph of. Unless they're like Bigfoot, they can make themselves blurry. Because everything, we only got about a minute and 10 seconds left with you tonight, Tim. And I could go another 4 hours as normally we normally could, but we have to keep it short. And I promise you, I will be calling you after the show, about half an hour after the show. But do us a favor. Tell everybody where they can find your stories and your information.
Sure. Yeah, you can check us out on thedebrief.org. Stuff's coming out every day. And so, on breakthrough technology, science, I mean, that's what we cover predominantly, but we will also cover the latest and breaking and incredible UFO news that comes out there. We don't cover it every day because we're only willing to cover stuff that we think is really highly credible. So by all means, you can check us out there, or you can check, me out on Twitter, LT Tim McMillan, at LT Tim McMillan. So I'm on there. So feel free to check it out. Reach out anytime. I try to get back to everybody. I can't always, but I do try to connect with everybody or answer questions anybody has.
We appreciate you, man. And after that June 25th, expect a phone call from us to bring you back on to talk about and break down what's going on. Tim McMillan, everybody, thedebrief.org. Coming up next, we have the SOR Newswire. We have the Thought of the Day. Stay tuned. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. All right, bro. We're clear.
Done. All right, man. Yeah. Give me a call when you get done after the next half hour. And we'll catch up off the air and share all the secrets.
We'll give the juice.
Yeah, dude, man. Always a pleasure, man. Like I said, it flies by. God, it was like 2.5 hours. It seems long when you're beforehand, but I guess that's a good thing, right? Good conversation.
Well, you know what? I would suggest that take a listen in the next few days of Elizondo. He was on the first hour last night. It's pretty juicy, and that's the first time that he really opens up, and he gets mad. And I think it was great radio last night, which was fantastic.
Dude, I definitely will, and I guess I definitely will, and because that's my problem is I don't have enough time to catch up with stuff, but I will definitely check it out, and especially what you said. It's good to hear him get mad.
It is, and it's about time. I will call you in 1 hour from now because I have to edit the show afterwards. So cool. I'll give you a call in just over 1 hour, okay?
I'll be there, dude.
All right, I'll call you on Signal.
Talk to you later, man.
Bye. Tim McMillan, everybody. Tim McMillan. Great show. Great show. All right. All right, I want to just get something out in the air because I'm pretty open about things. This evening before the show, I had to make a decision, and I made a decision that we are going to be replacing Corrence, the booking guy, with a pair of new booking coordinators for Spaced Out Radio. Corrence did an amazing job with us. He's having a lot of stuff happening on his home front and everything, and I just had to make a change on that level. I love Corey. I think he's a great dude. He wears his passion and his heart on his sleeves, but as you know, he's been quite busy with family and everything from his chat room, or from his chat room. Oh my God. And that's why he's not been in our chat room amongst some other reasonings. And I quickly messaged with him today and said that I need a booking coordinator that I'm in contact with. And so we have a couple of names from our chat room who are volunteering their time to give me a hand with the show. And that will be Dirty Filth and Emily Bigelow. So they will be our new booking team. They are going to be booking shows from Monday through Saturday. Mark Eddy will continue to help Michael W. Hall on Sundays and booking guests there. And as you all seen, recently Emily got a wrench here, and when you are part of the team, you get a wrench. It's one of the big payoffs that you get. She's like, "No, I don't want to be paid. Just get me a wrench." I'm teasing. But thank you to Emily and Filth, and big thank you to Corrence, the booking guy, for for his help, and I'm hoping we can talk again very soon about this. And it's tough. It's a hard gig. It takes some time, but I think it's going to go well, and I think it's going to go really, really good. I don't know what that means, Vin. I don't know what that means. So let's keep it up. All right. Let's keep it up. We're gonna keep on rolling here, and we're going to make sure that we have everything going smooth and strong, and everything along with that. There will still be some good stuff happening here. I'm excited about it. We're also adding a video guy for our YouTube channel, and I talked to him this evening as well, and that is Gary Spikes Jr. He is with P3 Productions, and he's going to be giving us a big hand on the video side for YouTube, so we can create more content for all of you. It's going to be a lot of fun. Here comes the news, everyone. We've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Really do appreciate earning your listening ears. I want to remind you that if you've missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Speaking of the news, the news is always changing, which is why we bring you the SOR Newswire at the back end of every show, where we get to the weird, the strange, the wacky, and sometimes the haunted. According to Mid-Sussex Inspector Darren Taylor, a caller shared her supernatural concerns around midnight on May 22nd. Inspector Taylor said, while the woman was reassured by officers about the nature of ghosts, she was given a more serious message about the importance of using 999 for emergencies only. We get all kinds of weird and wonderful calls into 999, but people need to be aware that when they call the emergency number, they are blocking people from getting through who are in a real emergency. Apparently, this guy doesn't believe in ghosts. It's absolutely key that we allow people who need the police straight away to be able to get through. For non-emergency incidents like ghosts, the public are advised to call 101 or email Sussex Police, because, ghosts always wait for some sort of AOL dial-up first. The existence of ghosts, while not scientifically proven, has divided opinion for time immemorial. Whether individuals have the ability to summon ghosts and to bend them at their will, for example, to haunt their neighbors, is another source of debate. How did this all happen? Well, a Hayward's Health woman called the emergency line over fears that her neighbor had sent a ghost over to haunt her, and that's the reason why she called police. Isn't that nice? A Queensland, Australia-based Yowie researcher has claimed he has uncovered fresh evidence that Australia's version of Bigfoot actually does exist. Dean Harrison, who has been tracking the elusive creature for decades, released a new video from a recent trip to the Gold Coast hinterland, producing what he said is the most significant evidence of the Yowie's existence to date. The clip, taken on May 4th at Springbrook National Park, used thermal technology, shows that what Mr. Harrison said are two 9-feet tall Yowies in the wild. Speaking to the media, Mr. Harrison said that the night vision shows something hugging a tree before two huge Yowies step out into view. How cool is that? We estimated that they must have been at least 9 feet tall and that they made no noise arriving and no noise leaving the area. We wouldn't have known if anything was there if it wasn't for the thermal cameras. Harrison, who has led several overnight Yowie hunting expeditions over the years, has told the media that he was excited to make the major find. Sightings of the hairy ape-like creatures, common in Aboriginal legends, go back hundreds of years, though there remains no concrete proof that they actually exist. Mr. Harrison said the equipment we now have is stuff we couldn't have dreamt back in the 90s when I started, so I can assure people that this is just the beginning. In the footage, you will see the Yowies hugging the trees in an attempt to hide themselves. Later, they placed 4 markers directly on the tracks where Buck, Mr. Harrison's assistant, was standing the previous night. The markers were not there on our way in and were not there at 2 a.m., but they were there at 6 a.m. on the way out, apparently. It's a very remote location with lots of virgin scrub that feels like climbing a ladder. When passing through, there was definitely no humans in the area, just Yowies. The most recent reported sighting in Queensland before Mr. Harrison's was in Bundaberg earlier this year. Mr. Harrison said he was undeterred by people who dismiss the footage as doctored or claim that the creatures are mythical, saying that those who have had encounters motivate him to keep on searching. Go for it. I like it. Too bad it wasn't more than just, FLIR camera. But you get the point. Ghost nets from unknown origins drifting among the Pacific's currents, threatening sea creatures and littering shorelines with the entangled remains of what they kill. Lost or discarded at sea sometime decades ago, this fishing gear continues to wreak havoc on marine life and coral reefs in Hawaii. Now researchers are doing detective work to trace this harmful debris back to fisheries and manufacturers. That, of course, takes extensive in-depth analysis on tons of ghost nets. The biggest concern is the derelict gear keeps killing fish and other wildlife as endangered Hawaiian monk seals, seabirds, and turtles long after it's gone adrift, said Drew McWhirter, a graduate student at Hawaii Pacific University and one of the study's leading researchers. These nets bulldoze over our reefs before they hit the shore. They leave a path of destruction, pulling coral heads, and can cause a lot of ecological damage. Ghost nets foul oceans through the world, but the Hawaiian Islands, with the Great Pacific Garbage Patch to the east and another gyre of floating trash to the west, are an epicenter for marine waste. Past efforts to identify origins of nets have proven difficult because debris comes from so many countries, and nets have few, if any, unique identifying marks or features. Experts believe many nets are lost accidentally, but boats occasionally ditch nets to avoid prosecution when fishing illegally. Other fishermen cut away portions of damaged nets instead of returning them to shore. The ghost net study is being supervised by Hawaii Pacific University's Center for Marine Debris Research co-director Jennifer Lynch, a research biologist with the National Institute of Standards and Technology. We're going to have a very challenging time, she says, trying to identify it back to its source. And if we fail, there's going to be an increase of evidence for policymakers to see the importance of gear marking and potentially bring those kinds of regulations to the front. Save the animals, man. Save the animals. A young boy got an unexpected birthday present this month after finding a 4-inch tooth on a South Carolina beach that once belonged to a huge extinct megalodon. Yeah, lucky kid. Braden Drew had just turned 5 when he and his family were vacationing at Myrtle Beach. Digging in the sand, Braden soon came across the large black tooth fossil. Pictures covers about a half of Braden's young little hand, and Braden's mom, Marissa, said that the tooth is all her son has been talking about since he found it. It was my son's 5th birthday on the 20th. We were on vacation down at Myrtle for the 2nd year in a row. He was digging in the sand and he found it. Measuring the fossil, Marissa discovered that the tooth is 4 inches long. The family from Plymouth, Massachusetts, is planning to frame the fossil and hang it in the house. My husband is now determined to keep looking for other teeth, Marissa added. He found a huge conch shell in Cancun a few years ago, so I think it runs in the family. Experts have confirmed that the tooth once belonged to a megalodon, an extinct species of shark that Dave thinks is still patrolling the oceans of the world. Yeah. Jack Cooper, a PhD student who studies sharks and megalodon at Swansea University in the UK, said the dental band on the front tooth is very common in megalodon's family. He added that size of the tooth would belong to a pretty big shark too. Assuming it's an anterior tooth, center of the mouth, then you're looking at a shark that was between about 32 and 39 feet long. I'm very jealous that Braden found such a cool tooth at such a young age. That would have been a dream find for me, he says. I want to find one, just to scare the daylights out of me. I've seen them. They're big. They sell for about $100 on the East Coast. Buckle your seatbelts. It's going to be an adorable ride. On May 20th, Michael Schneider readied the Pilots to Rescue plane for its biggest trip yet. Founded in 2015, Pilots to the Rescue is a nonprofit dedicated to help at-risk animals by flying them to safety. A self-described serial entrepreneur, Schneider started the organization to help combine his passion for aviation and animal rescue and pilots many of the nonprofit animals himself. A majority of the Pilots to the Rescue missions are transport flights operated by volunteer pilots. On these ships, shelter animals are set to be euthanized due to overcrowding or instead given to the pilots for a flight ticket. From there, they are safely flown to shelters with room and resources that can make these pets adoptable. Really cool. Anyways, the other day, he rescued 51 cats that were set up for termination. For the trip, Schneider flew from New Jersey to North Carolina to pick up dozens of felines from the Carolina Cat Rescue. Volunteers from the rescue, which works to find homes for North and South Carolina's unwanted kittens and cats, met Schneider on the tarmac to tenderly hand off 51 animals, many of which they had a hand in saving. Most of the felines endured the rough starts before the Carolina Cat Rescue found them, and Pilots to the Rescue then stepped in, like Black Nose, a pregnant black and white cat that had to get her leg amputated after she was found injured in a field. Oh, the poor kitty. Luckily, one Schneider carefully stowed all 51 cats on the plane. It took off for Connecticut. The cats' difficult paths were behind them, and fresh starts await. I love that. Moving on. You know, some people will do anything to get on YouTube. Like us right now. Look at me, look at me. Anyways, let's see here. Indian police have arrested a YouTuber for trying to do something real stupid. You see, what he did was he tied helium balloons to his pet dog in an attempt to make it fly. A few seconds later, someone in the balcony of a second floor of a building caught the dog. Mr. Sharma, Gaurav Sharma, who's 32 years old, shot a video showing his dog attached to the balloon so that he lets go off as the pet starts to fly into the air. A few seconds later, someone in the balcony of the second floor of the building catches the dog. Mr. Sharma said he followed all safety measures. I think he even put goggles on the dog's eyes. No, he didn't. That was a bow. And, yeah. So here he is, treating his dog like a science experiment. And he said he followed all safety measures, but deleted the video after social media backlash. He had posted the video to his YouTube channel, which has over 4 million subscribers. Police say they have arrested Mr. Sharma after receiving a complaint against him from animal welfare organization People for Animals. In the clip, Mr. Sharma is standing on top of a car, and his dog can be seen strapped to the helium balloons. He lets it go. He lets go of the dog at one point, and the pet starts floating in the air briefly as it starts going up to the second floor of the building. Someone then appears to catch the dog as it floats up, which is good. Cheers can be heard in the video as the person appears to be saving the dog. Mr. Sharma later uploaded an apology and explained that he took all safety measures while making the video with the dog Dollar. In the video, he said he was influenced by other YouTubers he had watched doing similar stunts. So, basically, what he's saying is, if other YouTubers are going to jump off a bridge, he is too. He then asked his viewers not to be influenced by his actions of the video. He goes on to say that he is a pet lover and treats Dollar like a child. Yes, except when it comes to balloons. How'd you like to be this guy? A Washington State man's 3 days of searching at Arkansas's Crater of the Diamond State Park paid off when he uncovered a 2.2 carat yellow diamond. Christian Leiden of Poulsbo, Washington, said he was searching for a long time, on a long-time quest to find raw materials to make his own engagement ring. And he came to the Crater of Diamonds after 5 years of panning for enough gold in Washington to make a band. Leiden said he and a friend had been searching the park for 3 days when he made the big discovery May 9th. I saw it shining as soon as I turned the screen over, and immediately I knew it was a diamond. I was shaking so bad I asked my buddy to grab it out of the gravel for me. He then took the gem to the park's Diamond Discovery Center, where it was identified as a 2.2 carat yellow diamond, the largest discovery at the park since the 4.49 carat yellow diamond was found in October 2020. Mr. Leiden's diamond is light yellow with a triangular shape and a sparkling metallic luster. Like most diamonds from the park, it contains a few inclusions, making it one of a kind, said Drew Edmonds, the park's assistant superintendent. As beautiful as the diamond is, I think the best part is the story behind it, Edmonds said. Since the 8th grade, Mr. Leiden has dreamed of creating a special ring for his future wife with stones and gold he mined himself, and now he can make that dream come true. By the way, Leiden said he hadn't expected to make such a significant find in the park. I was just hoping to find a couple of smaller stones and had planned to buy a center stone later, but that won't be needed now. Wish they rated how much that one was worth. 2.2 carats. Let's find out. Let's Google this. What is the value of a 2.2 carat yellow diamond? Not Yeko, yellow diamond worth. Let's see here. About $55,000. Yeah, $55,000, just so you know. That's a nice engagement ring. There better not be a divorce there in the future. Just saying. And here's one. If you think your child is smart, probably not as smart as this 2-year-old in Los Angeles. The young girl is amazingly brilliant. She already has been tested and has an IQ of 146 and has become the youngest member of Mensa in the United States. Parents Sukhjit Atwal and Devin Quest said their daughter Cash, who's just 2, was accepted into Mensa, the world's oldest high IQ society, after scoring 146 on an IQ test, nearly 50 points higher than the 98-point average in the U.S. The parent said Cash can read full sentences, count to 100, and identify all 50 states. She is now working on identifying periodic table elements by their symbols and learning Spanish. She'll wake up on a Saturday and say, I want to do elements, or I want to do the states. So whenever she's leaning to it, we're just there to support her, the parents say. The parents said that they don't put any pressure on the young girl to achieve, and she is many, many ways a normal toddler. At the end of the day, she's in that toddler stage. She is so very much a normal 2-year-old where we have negotiations, we have tantrums, we have everything, and it's different because the way we communicate with her, it has to be different because she's able to understand us just a little bit more. Wow, 2 years old. That girl literally might be the brains that solve cancer. Let's hope so. Let's hope so. Thought of the Dave happens every night at this time, where we ask a question on our Facebook and Twitter pages, then read your responses on the air because we love the audience participation around here. Today's Thought of the Dave is as follows. Where'd it go? It disappeared on me. Seriously. 1 second. This isn't good. I don't even know how that happened. Oh yeah, here we go. How do you think the public and the markets will react to disclosure? Mark, business as usual, my good man. There's absolutely no incentive for the government to open themselves up to questions they won't answer anyway. I get it. We all want the truth, but the government won't give most people what they need, so our wants are an afterthought. Aussie, sister. I don't think anyone will notice. Tim, 9/11, they recovered. COVID, they recovered. And those were major events directly related. The markets won't suffer. Maybe some short-term dip if the news decides to sell clicks by scaring people for a day or two. But they'll be fine. Pretty much a nothing burger. Let's go to Tom. Crypto will explode, I hope. Oil will collapse. Weapons tech companies will go through the roof after 1 or 2 weeks of being shocked. Maybe POTUS will close stock markets for a week, as Richard Dolan predicts. Gold and silver will increase, I think, same as wheat, rice, etc. Big pickle. I am not sure it would even blip, but if it did, stocks in military tech and toilet paper would skyrocket. Hard candy. It will definitely be a source of some incredible memes. That's how my generation copes, but I truly believe it will be taken seriously. Strafe. Panic, pillage, and buy, bog, roll. Stock up on guns. More pillaging. T-shirts. Lots of T-shirts, says UFO Experience. Lots of T-shirts. Let's continue on. Marty. The majority of people, over 50%, are ready. Others will come along. Some will think the sky is falling, especially among the staunchly conservative religious, but that will be the minority. Indigenous people of the world will ask, what took you so long? Andrew, hold on for a wild ride. This bull is bigger and badder than Red Rock. If this bull bucks or kicks, that's the answer. Greg, price of gold will probably go up. Isn't that what the Anunnaki were after in the first place? Darren, I suppose that depends on what is disclosed. If they say aliens are here or coming, survival equipment will be the new gold and preppers will be the new kings and queens of the world. If they disclose stuff we already know, nothing changed, and us UFOers need to keep on pushing. Thank you to everybody playing along in the Thought of the Day. We will do it all again on our next show, because that's what we do here on Spaced Out Radio on Twitter and Facebook, so make sure you take a look for that. Thank you to Captain Shirk for the SOR News Wire, and to Tim McMillan from the Debrief coming on in and breaking down the latest UFO news. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone rocking out with us in our chat rooms on YouTube, LGAM, Twitch, Revolution Radio, Spreaker, the Space Travelers Club on Facebook, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo Train. has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night.